Hello, this is my first out of a couple RobotC guides that I'm going to make. The first guide that I thought was appropriate was how to get RobotC and the basics of the development environment. So the first thing that you want to do is that you go to Google and type in RobotC and then just get the first link. And you want to download RobotC 3.0 for Mindstorms. Once you get that downloaded, you will get something along the lines of this. Basically, now that you have this, there's a couple things that you need to do to be ready to start programming. One of the first things that you need to do is that you need to get the actual version, because what you do is you download the child version, and your mentor, in our case Dr. Spencer, will have this for us, and you just type in the code and allow you to get the real version. Secondly, there are a few things that limit what you can do until you check them. And for us, we're a super user because we use almost everything that this development environment will let us use. And so we would click that. And another thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that we are using the right platform type. And so what you want to make sure we have is Lego NXT plus Tetrix and Matrix. For those who don't quite know or are new to robotics in general, Tetrix is all the metal parts and all the DC motors and the Tetrix motor controllers. They are not Legos affiliated, and so what the Tetrix motor controllers do is that they allow the Lego parts to talk to the Tetrix parts, and so we want to make sure that we just check all of that. Let's see. Now that we have the RobotC and we have downloaded it and we have a copy that we can use and we have everything ready to go, there's one thing that we also need to do. There are these drivers, and if you're new to programming, like, they're basically include files. And so if we're working with sensors or custom sensors or even teleop, which is the joystick controlled part of the game, we need these drivers. And every year I think they update new drivers. So basically, to get them is you just type in third-party drivers for RobotC, click on the first link, get the file. And once you get the file, you want to go to I believe you want to go to, hold on a second, preferences. You go to View, Preferences, Detail Preferences, just click the compiler, and then what you want to do is you want to add these include directories. Basically, I believe if you just include the file, the includes that you just downloaded, if you include just them on this line right here, then you should be fine, and then it should allow you to use those include files. Basically, every time that you state an include file, it just reroutes it and it tells it where it's stored. So once we have that out of the way, I can briefly talk about the basics of RobotC, like how to connect to the NXT brick, kind of how to use the NXT brick and talk to it using this development environment. So the first thing that you want to see is that when you use NXT brick, anything that you want to do with the NXT brick, you go to Robot, NXT brick. There are communication links set up, so that allows you to connect to your NXT brick. The file management utility allows you to see what files on the NXT, and those are the main two that we use often. The first thing I guess I can walk through is let's go through the motors and sensors setup. So what this does is it allows us, when you get a robot from someone, they have the NXT brick connected to these motor controllers. These are like these black boxes that have this wire just connected to the NXT controller, and they can be in ports 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so basically, when we go to this, the first thing that you always want to go to is the external controllers, and almost always it's just custom. So then you look in to see what's in port 1. Well, is there a motor controller in port 1, or is there a servo controller in port 1? So if there's a motor controller in port 1, you just click motor controller. And let's say the motor controller is connected to a servo. Well, then you would click that. But in port 2, there's another servo controller, then you would click that as well, and so on. So hopefully that makes sense. You basically just follow those wires, and if something's connected to S1, you write down what it is. And if something is connected to that motor controller, not into additional port, because you're allowed to string these together and have 4 of them total, then you would go on so forth. And so basically when we have these motors, we have to name them somehow. Notice that we only have one motor controller, so therefore there's only 2 options, 2 different motors, because you're allowed to have 2 different motors for one motor controller, and these are DC motors. And so you have sensor 1, controller 1, so that would make sense. It's in the first port, and it's the first controller, and that therefore this is the first one and this is the second one. So you can name these whatever you like, and left and right, if this is the drivetrain, is usually what I could do. Notice that you have these reverse. Basically, because they're wired that way, one is reversed, and so you have to basically click it. And the way I do this, I know it's probably not the best way, but if I have, when I talk about this later, but when you have the motors go straight and you have it reversed and they accidentally go backwards, then you know you reversed the wrong motor. So basically when we are fine with all the setting up, and we just basically say we have no servos connected even though I have servo controllers, you click apply. Basically what this does is this sets up everything. This lets the NXT know where to send the information. It lets it know where it needs, when you reference left motor, it knows where it is and it can connect to it. This is really kind of crucial. Again, it's motors and sensors setup. Basically, there's not too much trickiness about this. You just have to follow where the motors and sensors is set up, and also try to get the builders to actually let you know beforehand, before you have to go into the robot and try to find it yourself. Setting them up and talking to your engineer is really helpful. Now we need to know how to how to actually connect to the NXT, download files to the NXT and such. So what you need to do is, like I said, anything with the NXT is under robot. You go to NXT brick and communication link setup. And of course it starts up, well, you know NXT bricks can be found. Well, one, I haven't turned the NXT brick on, and so I'm just going to start that up right now. And basically you have options to connect through. You can connect just through the USB or Bluetooth, or all 3, or just USB or Wi-Fi. Mainly we've been doing Bluetooth, and I think what we might be trying to do is switch over to Wi-Fi. But the first thing I'll do is, I guess I will just connect the way we have been in using Bluetooth. And so in order to do Bluetooth, what we need to do is we need to go to our computer, and we need to go to open the control panel and view devices and printers. Basically, we are trying to find the name that's on top of our NXT brick, and for my case it's Luke L. And so usually you want to add a device. Hopefully I can find it, and it's searching, and there's Luke L. I click next, and now it's connecting, and all NXT bricks have passwords. So you hear that beep, that means now the NXT, my brick, has a password key, and it tells me what it is, and you can click OK. And all of our bricks are 1, 2, 3, 4. I know, great password. And you click the orange button on the NXT to say that's fine. And then as soon as I click the orange button, you type in that password that it told you to click, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. Click next, and now it is adding the drivers so that hopefully our RobotC can talk to this NXT brick using Bluetooth. So I close this. I then research using USB and Bluetooth. I go to repeat search, and hopefully it can find it for me. And sometimes it does not responding. I don't know why. It's buggy sometimes, but it should show up. Just give it a little bit. Also, Yeah, so there we go, Luco. So you click on this. This is kind of your directory. So since you see I've connected to RBrick 3903 and some other ones, and this basically, remove pairing basically gets rid of the what we just did in the control panel. And usually if you for some reason can't connect through Bluetooth, I recommend just removing the pairing and restarting it. This can be a little buggy, and so therefore we're trying to move over to Wi-Fi, but right now this is kind of how you do it with Bluetooth. You click Bluetooth, and then you can select via Bluetooth, and it will connect, and this is allowing, and there we go. And so now, hopefully, when I click F5, which is now it compiles the program and it also downloads to the brick. And I haven't really saved this one yet, but I'll just go on and see now that it's actually downloaded. This stuff I'll get to later, but this is the NXT brick actually showing that it's running. And this is, I will show you how to get all this stuff later, but this is just the point that we've connected to the brick. So X to get rid of that. And another thing that we need to do is that we need to, every time you are dealing with a new brick that you haven't personally used before, you want to make sure that it has the right firmware downloads, and you want to make sure everything's right with that. So you want to make sure that you get a, hold on one second, you want to make sure that you get a USB to USA cable, and basically that allows you to connect to the brick. I'm trying to find one right now because I'm not prepared as I'd like to be. Well, alright. Basically, what you do is that when you connect via, connect with a USB, it would show up in here, and basically you click on it and you do firmware download standard, and that will basically, it will reset the NXT brick. It will, like, if you put your ear next to the NXT brick, you can hear it clicking, and then it will start back up. So basically that's just like a firmware download. It just restarts everything, make sure everything's up to date. And then you basically, what a standard procedure that we like to use is that you want to go to excuse me, you want to go to because another thing that I like to talk about is, because I went to communication link setup and didn't click it, it kind of resets everything, so I'm not connected to it again. So every time you go back in here, you have to make sure that you actually click on the right NXT brick, because basically I'm researching everything because thinking that I'm going to connect to another thing. So let me connect to Lugo, select via Bluetooth. And this can be buggy sometimes, so restarting your program or restarting the NXT brick, there's also removing the pairing and doing all that stuff can prove to be useful. But basically you go to NXT brick, like I said, Robot NXT brick, and you go to file management utility. So this are all the files that are on this brick, and because the files are just basically text files, this is what this program is just text file. It's just like words, and they basically are really, really small, as you see the size of them. But a lot of these programs are what comes with the firmware download. Like the sounds, like making it be able to play sounds, all comes with the firmware download. But what we like to try to do is we want to delete all the files, because there are some firmware download files that interfere with the files that we're going to make. And so although it does update the NXT brick itself, we're just not keeping any of the files. It's still updating it and it's still up to date. It's just that we don't want any of the files. So you can just click delete all files there, and now there's no files in the brick itself. Basically, another thing that I would like to talk about briefly is there is a lot of sometimes not being able to connect to the NXT brick using Bluetooth, so you have to sometimes use the USB. And like I said before, we're going to try to switch to Wi-Fi, but that is up to Quentin and the people that are going to be the captains next year. But this has hopefully been a good guide of trying to get used to NXT, kind of getting used to the RobotC development environment. A couple little things is that open help, like help, this is probably one of the most underused things in our software team, but if you ever have any problems, they actually have a very good help database, and so if there's anything that you need that I haven't covered, and please feel free to contact me, but this is also a good place to be. I will hopefully get the next guide up soon, and thank you for watching.